Gunk.
I think that we're going. I'm gonna hit start recording, and then I don't have to download this later.
Did you check that your mic was added to the Facebook or to the YouTube?
Yeah,
Should I check it?
it's all saved from last
Okay,
time.
okay, okay, okay.
Um,
Just pick cards.
I would say I'm not an idiot, but I mean the whole thing was that I am a little bit of an idiot.
Yeah, you're a little bit of dum dum.
All right, why can't it's not letting me rock with any settings? If I for some reason it took hours to download from uh, Facebook, not Facebook,
Interesting.
YouTube. All right, I'm just gonna start recording. We are streaming. I'm gonna play the theme song. I think. Oh no, that's a lot.
Hey guys and gals, come gather round. There's a couple hip cats who are coming to town. Squawking and barking and talking about things. Jiving, just diving, listening, a ring-a-ding-ding. If you want the top tab, I got your show. Sit back and tune in to Daddio.
I should be able to hear it at least.
That's right. Sit tight. Daddio.
Come on, Daddy.
Daddio.
I'm on, Daddy.
Is the monitoring not on? Is that the problem? The thing about a thing that I genuinely like about OBS is that it is like constantly updating. They're always adding new stuff with like functionality, but
making
also
it easier.
Move stuff around pretty consistently in ways that are that really upset me.
Yes.
Like right now, whenever I bring up a menu, it is bringing it up behind the window of all of the things. Like, you know how normally you open a menu and it shows up on top so that you can see it and interact with it? This time, we're not doing that.
Not this time. This time it's business. This time it's personal. I guess, which means it's not business because it's personal.
Maybe. And I have not switched monitoring device. Is it not on? I don't know, man. All right, I'm going to hit it one more time for the theme. Now I can't hear you either. Or were you just being silent? Yeah, you were just being...
I was being silent. Okay.
Miming
Sorry.
for some reason. Yeah, no, I'm trying to figure out audio issues. But yeah, no, you go ahead and just mouth words at me.
Be mine.
I'm going to hit the theme song as if it is playing.
Sure.
And then we're going to rock and roll.
Yep.
I was getting levels out of it last time.
No, I ain't getting shit.
OBS, come on.
OBS, OB misbehaving.
OB misbehaving.
That's Glenn's angry face. That's Glenn's disapproved face.
All right, it came up that time. But again, I'm not. I just want things to work, you know? What if I delete it and add it again?
Maybe if you restart your computer.
I did right before I started because OBS was misbehaving in a different way.
OB misbehaving.
So you're. I will switch to StreamYard OBS. I swear to God.
Hey guys and gals, come gather round. There's a couple hip cats who are coming to town. Squawking and barking and talking about things. Jiving, just diving, listening, a ring-a-ding-ding. If you want the top tip, I got your show. Sit back and tune in to Daddio. Daddio. That's right. It's a good time. Daddio. Daddio.
I'm just waiting
Let's
for the
go.
rules to go away. How long is the theme song? Hey, welcome to Daddio. I am Glenn Tickle.
And hello, I am Ricky Glore.
Fantastic. We are back for another, but also kind of the first episode since we called the last one episode 0, while we were figuring out what the show was going to be. And then we just kind of did an episode. There wasn't a lot of figuring out.
Oh, we didn't figure anything out. I don't think anything got decided.
No, I mean, we talked about it, and I feel like we kind of locked into a groove for what the show is going to be, but I thought it was going to be more like discussing possible segments or whatever, but I don't really want to do any of those.
Yeah,
I think it's
thank
fine.
you. Well, I mean, I will say what I did last time, and I can't remember if this was in the final episode, but anybody who's not live streaming, who's not watching the video, I am sitting wearing a black suit with a white dress shirt and black tie. I am drinking a martini out of a very elegant martini glass, and not a coffee out of a unicorn mug.
I don't know if it's gullible or because I got a 185 on my rad score recently, but I 100% believed you when you were like, yeah, I'm drinking a martini. I was like, it's like 10:30, my guy. Like, live your life. But I genuinely thought you just had it. It was like in a tall coffee mug. I just thought that's how you were drinking it. And I was like, I'm not going to,
you're not going to yuck my yum.
Decisions.
Sure. I mean, unless then later you heard about like me doing something extremely heinous that involved my family. Like, I'm not even going to hypothetical, like, put out there what that could be. But then you were just like, you know what? Now I'm thinking that martini was real.
Yeah.
And Ricky is an awful father and parent and human being.
For a second. I think you're just a big old sweetie pie is what I think.
Well, because this is our first, second episode, and the theme song that we are saying is going to be the Daddio theme song played at the beginning.
I hope.
I also we'll put it in post, right?
It'll be yeah.
Unless
you're happened to jump on the moment we started live streaming unannounced on
yeah, but now we are on all of the platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Or also kudos, awesome martini glass yourself over there. I really like your martini glass. That's pretty sweet.
I believe this was a Christmas present from my sister. I've gotten a lot of compliments on it over the years. I
like the giant handle.
It is a it's a taller than usual coffee mug with the bat symbol and a utility belt. It came with a cape, but I'm not a child, so I don't.
It's supposed to look like the torso. You're not a child.
No.
Because even a child would be like, get that cape out of here.
I'm an adult man drinking out of a Batman mug.
To go with the theme song is what we've selected to play to open each episode. I took it upon myself, because we don't have any listeners asking for anything, to give you another theme song, but done in the style of a 90s sitcom. So I would like to play that for you.
Okay.
Just a couple of guys
Try pulling it away from the mic because it really breaks up. I think because it's peaking when it's that close. Or your microphone hates your phone. I can't hear anything. This is straight up dead air right now, homie. You're laughing at something. I mean, I'm sure it seems like you're really enjoying this 90s theme song version of the Daddio theme song that you sent me. But I hear nothing. The listeners aren't going to hear it. I can maybe drop it
hear
in.
It. Yeah, drop it in post. So
But
yeah, it was really good.
They're going to hear me talking over it because I can't hear anything. We don't have to.
Well,
if I'm just dropping it in, we don't have to
just drop it in.
pause, you know?
You're welcome. So hey, you guys just heard
like,
that was the 90s. Yeah.
Is it going to be like season 8 of the Drew Carey Show where they had a bunch of different bands cover the theme song?
Yes. Yeah.
Or various theme songs?
Good morning, Parma. Bring my love for me tonight.
Well,
that's the first one, right?
I think the first 5 seasons, it was a different opening theme song. And then
Cleveland Rocks.
They just repeated Cleveland Rocks for 2 or 3 seasons. And then with season 8, they had, I know Bowling for Soup did a cover of 5 O'Clock World. I think the Pretenders did one of them.
Drew Carey Show used to be one of those when I got home from, I think, either middle school or high school.
It's an all-timer.
A local affiliate. Well, until like that last a couple seasons.
Once Kate leaves, it falls off of the shelf, which is just, I mean, that's not exclusively because of my attraction to actress Krista Miller, but it's not. But
or her husband, creator of Scrubs, Bill Lawrence.
That is when like the Winford Louder, the department store that he's worked at, turns into like basically Amazon, and it's, I don't know, it's that the whole storyline doesn't really do anything for me, but the show's tremendous.
The musical episode of Drew Carey Show where it's Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, against Rocky Horror.
Yeah,
they do a couple. That's one of my all-time favorites. Big fan of the show. Drew
Carey, come on, Daddio.
Yeah, that is my first introduction to Craig Ferguson.
He is so good. I've been rewatching it lately. That's why I'm so hyped about it right now. Because you couldn't stream it for a long time, and now it is all available for free on Plex. Yeah, so you can watch it.
Shout out to Plex.
I don't know why it is not somewhere else that you can like watch without the worst repeating ads over and over again, but you know, it's the world we live in. It's really good. He is so funny in it, and also, was also my introduction to Craig Ferguson. It was my introduction to a lot of comedy people.
Ryan Stiles.
He had so many of the one-off guest appearances on that show or other comedians. And it's like going back and watching it now, it's like, oh yeah, I didn't I'm trying to think of a good example. The one of the episodes I just watched recently had Kathy Griffith in it, who I think I knew before because that was pretty late in the run of the show that I would have known who she was at that point. But
I can't think of the name of his book, but when I got into Drew Carey Show, I went and picked up the paperback of Dirty Jokes or something or whatever.
One of the things I got off of like Napster in high school was Drew Carey just reading a list of, I want to say it's 100 big dick jokes. But there's no audience. It's just him reading, and I listened to it 5,000 times as a kid.
His paperback is a bit of a autobiography, and I really enjoyed it. And like you, I really enjoy Drew Carey on the Drew Carey Show. I think like any good sitcom, especially if it's led by a comedian or a very big persona, I like that the ensemble is amazing. But Drew Carey has a character. But like when thinking about it, and especially when watching it, I don't get a sense of who he is. Does that make sense? Like, I don't, like, he's just,
I
this
mean,
affable guy who like he was horny and has relationships, but there's nothing really there. I don't
I
know
disagree.
it's
I
hard for
mean,
me to explain.
I've watched a lot of it in pretty rapid succession, and I feel like, I mean, even just the character. I don't know how close, I don't know Drew Carey outside of the show and hosting Price is Right. Like, I don't know his beliefs in the world, but if you do 9 seasons of a TV show where you're playing a character named your same name, like, there's bound to be some overlap there. Where it is just like, yeah, he it seems like a lot of times went out of his way during that show. Like you talked about the musical number, he did a lot of them, and it's like, well, he likes them and he wants to give people an opportunity who like might not be showcased in a primetime network sitcom. Be like, yeah, let's bring in some dancers. Like what when the strikes were going on recently, like he was out on buying everybody lunch on the pickup line. Like every day, I think there was like a Bob's Big Boy near where one of the studios that was getting picketed was, and they're like, "Yeah, if you go in and show your union card, you get free lunch at Bob's Big Boy on Drew Carey." And
But then we found out that it was actually on him, and he has a really weird kink.
yeah,
where,
it's
like,
that
you had
thing
to
where
eat
like the model
food
lays out and
physically.
they put sushi on their nipples,
Yes,
and you gotta eat
it
your
was
burger.
weird. And then we found out a lot about Drew Carey.
Yeah,
Like that.
but I mean, it's it's weird because especially the last couple episodes that I've watched have been like very class conscious in a way that I'm kind of surprised for an early 2000s sitcom, because a big recurring thing is like Drew Carey on the show is poor. His friends are poor. They do occasionally have weird amounts of money for weird reasons in a way that it's just like, well, the story
Like where they
needed
had the
Lewis to have
Batmobile, or they-
$4,000 in
yes,
cash. Yeah.
yes, yes.
Where it's not necessarily really explained. But it is not making fun of poor people in a way that I'm trying to think of a sitcom that maybe kind of like. Did you ever watch The Middle with the janitor from Scrubs and the mom from maybe Home Improvement? One of the TV moms.
The mom from Everybody Loves Raymond.
Okay. I feel like
And-
that show, a lot of the jokes were like, man, being poor is pretty fun. Like, I feel like the joke was on poor people a little bit. I didn't watch that show extensively. If I'm missing the mark,
No.
I apologize
I don't,
to fans of The Middle, but
I have a hard time with a lot. You look, you can criticize me about my love for Friends and growing up with it, or different TV shows. I know there's a hate for Friends right now, which is fine. But there are so many sitcoms that are like, and I guess this happens after you graduate high school. It's like your love for Saturday Night Live. You love the cast for when you were in middle school and high school,
Right.
and then everything after that sucks. For me, that's sitcoms. Like, I can't stand How I Met Your Mother. I can't stand Big Bang Theory. I can't stand Two and a Half Men. I can't stand
Big Bang
Two
Theory.
Broke Girls.
I didn't watch any of Two Broke Girls, but Big Bang Theory I think is a good example of what I'm talking about. Where like that is a show where the jokes are at the expense of nerds and nerd culture, not about nerds and nerd culture. Like,
Exactly,
when
and this
that
is gonna
started,
be-
I was watching it. Like my wife and I were usually home whatever night it was on. It's like, oh yeah, we'll watch the sitcom with the guy we like from that one scene in Garden State. And it's like, yeah, like, but after like a season, I'm like, I kind of feel like I'm what they're making fun of. Like, I don't like the experience of watching the show because I feel like they're making fun of me specifically.
So my parents loved it, and so beyond the criticism of the overuse of a laugh track or whatever, which is super heightened on, I think, The Big Bang Theory, which is annoying unto itself. Like, if you ever
We gotta
watch
get a laugh
Mash,
track for this. That's what we need.
there is. It's just nothing has been.
Yeah.
even
Well, it's like the
remotely
theme
funny.
song at the beginning. You can't hear it. I've just been
Yeah.
dropping it in intermittently throughout the run of the show.
It's just been cutting me off every time I start talking.
It just
I thought we were
sounds like
gonna-
there's 50 people who think I'm hilarious.
So I thought this whole episode was going to be a Drew Carey rewatch episode, but I think now we're talking about sitcoms and their influences on
There
us
is
and our
one.
thoughts
If
about
anybody's
them.
super interested, some cat on Threads posted that he was thinking about starting one, and he wasn't sure if anybody would want to co-host it, and I told him that I would do it, and then he followed me on Instagram, but then never followed up. I think it's called the Winford Louder Report. I haven't listened to it.
Oh,
I don't know if it
love it.
started yet, but if anybody wants more Drew Carey talk,
We look with our glasses
yeah,
and our white middle-aged man powers combined. We will do that podcast. Oh, it's like MASH. The first 3 seasons, I think there's a laugh track, and it doesn't work. And then once they got rid of it, and MASH turned into more of a dramedy, I think the show works a lot better. Big Bang Theory, exactly what you're saying. I think the laugh track is too much. That bothers me. But the other thing is for what you were saying, I will say something that is a little bit more heightened and bold. I think it is blackface for nerds.
I've said
I
this
think it is a
exact same
minstrel
thing.
show.
Like that, I've used that exact same phrase, and people
Okay.
push back. They're like, "It's not the same." I'm like, "I'm not saying it is as bad, but I'm
Yes,
saying
I'm not saying racially charged
Right.
that nerds are a subculture or a race and blah blah blah, but I'm saying how it's presented
the function of it
feels.
is.
Yes.
I agree, and I've said it to enough people, and they've pushed back. Where I'm like, we're gonna get comments now, which we'll take the engagement.
This
But
works, Daddio. I'm glad we connect on this. Like we don't have to agree, but it does make me feel good that because I'm not taking a stance to do that internet thing of like love or hate. I just don't like it. And I'm not saying that I don't like new things. Like Scrubs mentioned Bill Lawrence
Yeah.
creating Scrubs, and that's why she left Drew Carey show was to be on Scrubs. I liked Scrubs until the character of JD became an annoying twat waffle, and I just couldn't watch it anymore. Where to go back on my previous comment about Drew Carey, what I love about it is also why I question about why I don't feel connected to him in any certain way. Is he does seem like the perfect everyman and coming from a middle lower class that seemed genuine except for the variety show nature of sometimes how it would break the conventions of a sitcom with dancing and blah blah blah. I think he has done the best and the closest to what like I Love Lucy or a Honeymooners did, just updated. But his presentation of the everyman, of the couch potato, of the middle-aged white guy, I think is so good. He doesn't have any television, I think, point of view, and that is supported for me in Whose Line Is It Anyway, where he's not even a judge. He's the least judgiest judge of a guy
I've not watched a ton
watching.
of Whose Line because
But so that's just kind and like Price is
Improv
right.
doesn't do it
He's
for
a
me.
host.
yeah,
I think Drew Carey and the Drew Carey show, like he does have point of views, he has storylines, he has crushes that are relatable. But I guess just to compare it to like a Seinfeld or a Chandler or a Sheldon, there's nothing I can sit there and be like, oh, Drew Carey is this on the Drew Carey show.
I disagree.
just
I also
kind
think
of-
Seinfeld's a weird example to use because he's the one that I go to in terms of like, you don't know a single thing about that man after. Also, was Seinfeld 9? Was that 9 seasons as well?
Maybe. I know Friends is 10 with an abbreviated 10
After
season
I've watched
to get
every
that.
episode of Seinfeld, I've heard a
Okay.
lot of his stand up. You don't know a single thing about that guy other than he likes cereal and Superman. Like as a person, you don't know anything about him other than if you watch comedians in cars getting coffee that he's rude to waitstaff. Like that's like my main takeaway from that show.
My favorite, not my favorite episode, but one of my favorite moments, comedians in cars getting coffee, is I guess
When he shows off the cars,
Where
you're the one person who likes that part of it.
yeah, the Bill Burr episode where Bill Burr and him are smoking cigars, and Bill Burr calls him out, where he's like, "You do a character, and everyone thinks you are the best observational and that you're relating and you're saying what people are thinking." He's like, "But you're not." He's like, "You're judging them and you're calling them stupid and that you're better than them and you're smarter than them." And Jerry's just like slapping his knee laughing because he knows it's true. That's how I always took him, was he is superior. And that's how I always took the misfit cast of Seinfeld, is that they even though their lot in life and their situations maybe aren't, or maybe worse than yours, but
Mhm.
they as a collective are better than you. And I think that's why the last episode doesn't bother me as Seinfeld, is I'm like, yeah, this is just putting a button on who these people have been this whole show.
I
But
remember like watching that in real time and then finding out that people didn't like it, and I was like, I don't understand why. And I'm really critical of Seinfeld as the
we
person,
agree, Glenn
but
Tickle.
the
We are the
show I
same
like a lot.
person.
Uh,
Yeah.
except for that, it is hard to watch because I dislike him so much now. But yeah, I'm like, it's. I like that they brought a bunch of stuff back from earlier episodes. It felt like a good ending, and everyone's like, "Oh, like the John Panette bit is
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, I don't know, it worked."
What are you going to do when you're trying to do a final show that is going to be so
You
scrutinized?
got to do a
What
dinosaurs.
are you going to give George cancer and
No,
he's
you got to do a
dying and
dinosaurs.
everything's
You
going
got
to
to have a big
scream?
meteor come and kill everybody.
That's how you should end every show.
That's how dinosaurs did it.
You know,
That should be
I think
that should be the final episode of every show. Is characters dealing with the fact that an asteroid is coming to kill them all.
so. The middle.
That's going to be
any
the
of those
last
other
episode
shows.
of Daddio. I'll tell you that right now. When we decide to stop doing this, it's going to be
Episode 3.
real time. It's going to be it is going to be Orson Welles' Invasion from Mars, but we're going to be live reacting to an impending asteroid, and then I'm going to drop the sound effect of an explosion, and then we're never going to talk to each other again.
Well, we're not going to be able to hear the sound effect of the explosion. The audience will, but
yeah.
we're not going to be able to hear it. Well, is it Orson Welles, like auteur, director Orson Welles, or is it late in life selling frozen
No, it's
peas
probably going
and
to be
wine?
War of the Worlds Orson Welles, since that's the direct thing that
Orson
I'm
Welles.
comparing to.
News coming in from the east.
Why?
Orson
That's the
Welles.
brain. You're doing the brain.
That's Orson
I know,
Welles.
but that's
But so okay, we didn't mention also Diedrich Bader and Ryan Stiles.
incredible.
One of my favorite twosomes. People talk about Joey and Chandler. Love Joey and Chandler. Love Friends. Diedrich Bader and Ryan Stiles. I love them. I could have done a whole show. Like, I was hoping that there was a spinoff of those two dum-dums.
Yeah.
Like,
There was a couple episodes where it felt like maybe that was like they were trying to do a backdoor pilot for like the Lewis and Oswald show, but it's also so like they were usually the B story of the episode, and it's like sometimes that story was a little bigger than a typical episode, and you're like, are they trying to? Is this whole thing of them building a house in the park? Is that going to be a new show?
They're making. I think one of my favorite series of episodes is where they're making the beer.
Yeah,
Is that
that's like
okay?
That's a lot. That's seasons long.
Okay. I like that season. I think that is maybe one of my.
I think it starts in
my
season
favorite
2 or 3, and it runs throughout. It's not always like super important to every episode, but
I'm sending you an email, and I hate to be abrupt with this, but from all the podcasts that I've listened to, we're about a half an hour into the episode. All the podcasts I've listened to, which has been about 3 in my life, including this one, I've learned that it's best to get ad sponsors.
okay.
And it's best to do those ads as spontaneously as possible during the episode. So it's annoying for the listener, meaning they can't easily skip it. So here we go. Today's episode of Daddio is brought to you by Time Life Presents Soup or Sounds of the 70s. A great holiday gift or a stocking stuffer for anyone in your life this season. Soup or Sounds of the 70s.
That's right, Ricky. In this expansive collection, you'll be presented with classics like French onion, chicken noodle, lentil, French onion, potato leek, cream of mushrooms, and much, much more.
That's not all, Glenn. With Soup or Sounds of the 70s, you'll also hear Vietnam, feminism, disco, fast food, Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter, government-provided food subsidies with high corn fructose syrup, and much, much more.
That's not all. Act today and you'll receive a complimentary Soup or Sounds of the 80s and 90s today.
All right, that's our first ad sponsor.
You sure did it. You sure wrote that up and emailed it to me. and it's high fructose corn syrup. I will have to take that up with the advertiser.
High fructose corn syrup.
I mean, I guess maybe high corn fructose syrup is a separate thing.
Oh, wait. What, did I do it wrong? Did I say it wrong?
Well, no, you didn't. The advertiser,
Oh,
when they
okay.
wrote this
Oh,
copy,
the advertisers.
they wrote
Yeah,
high corn fructose syrup, which is nothing, as opposed to high fructose corn syrup, which is a commonly used food additive.
and came out in the 70s because they needed to find a way to pay all the farmers who were growing corn.
Is that when it started in the 70s?
Uh-huh. And via Richard Nixon, because those farmers needed some money, and that is when you start seeing the growth of obesity in the United States amongst the poorer class, which connects to us
Drew
talking
Carey.
about Drew Carey
And
and
us.
the lower class, and us, and the lower
And
class.
just you and me as people.
Yeah, middle-aged white guys with zero low class.
So we are recording this. We're going to typically be doing this on Wednesdays, I believe. It is Monday today,
Yeah.
the Monday before American Thanksgiving. So we're recording at your request today. I asked to go a little earlier on Wednesday because my kids have a half day, and then also they're like, oh, but also we can't get the buses here at the normal half day time, so we're letting them out an hour ahead. I'm like, why even just cancel school? They're going to be there for 45 minutes. What
We're
are
just
we
like,
doing?
hey, we're just gonna do whatever we want to do. Hey, parents,
Yeah.
like, come and figure out your day based off of us not being able to figure out what we're doing.
So when you're like, you want to just do it today, jumped at the chance. Except for that, I was already at the gym, being a good little boy on the treadmill like a champion.
I'm gonna do my gym. I have a stair machine in my garage that I got last year before the twins came, and I canceled my gym membership at Planet Fitness's. So I could have that if I needed to break for a half an hour. I'm going to tell you though, man, past 2 weeks have been real rough at home with the twins and sleep regression and sickness and our 5-year-old daughter being a pain in the ass. I have not worked out much. I have guilty pleasure to eat. Been eating. I had sushi for breakfast yesterday
Hell yeah.
because life is a roller coaster and we're just running down hills right now. So I have not worked out in a while, and I refuse to get on the scale. I'm sure I have not gained as much weight as I have in my brain.
Yeah,
But after we're done with this, I have to go do that
I
stair
don't
machine
really
at least for a
mess
half
with
an
a
hour.
scale. It is based purely on how pants fit. As when I'm like, oh, I gotta get back. Where you mentioned Planet Fitness, that's where I go, and it is a thing. Anytime people ask me for comedy advice, I bring up get a Planet Fitness membership.
Hours, baby.
As like just a real boots on the ground practical bit of advice where if I have to go do a show somewhere that's 3.5 hours away, sure, I can shower at home and get ready and go and drive 3.5 hours, and then like I'm gonna do a show and then be done at like 10:30. Do I want to drive home? Not really. But if you got Planet Fitness membership, those bad boys are everywhere. Most of them are open 24/7. On the weekends, a lot of them close at night. But like,
Which is weird. It's kind of when you need them.
yeah.
It's on the weekends, but yeah.
But still, I'll take a Thursday 2 a.m. reason to get out of the car, walk on a treadmill for 20 minutes so you don't get blood clots or whatever. But yeah, it's.
I think you
use
and I are similar that way
other
too. Like, I
locations.
don't care showering somewhere else.
Yeah,
I
no,
don't-
I mean that's the other practical thing.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, throw the suit in the back of the car, drive 3 of the 3.5 hours, find a Planet Fitness. You know, I'll get out and hit the treadmill for a little bit just to like stretch my legs. Then I'll jump in, take a shower, get dressed, go to the show. And then when you're driving
Do
back,
the-
you're like, I don't want to drive 3.5 hours straight through in the middle of the night. I'll drive an hour and a half, stop, get out,
Yeah.
move around a bit. You know.
I do love the people watching of the comfortability of certain individuals who are more free with their nakedness out of the shower, or how they get to the shower, or how they're operating in the general locker area. That is fun because there are certain people where I'm just like, hey man, you're real comfortable with being naked, and I'm not going to yuck your yum and say that you shouldn't be or shame you. Like, you should wrap a towel. Like,
Nah,
cool.
See, at my old gym,
I'm glad you're comfortable.
before I joined Planet Fitness at my old gym, which is like a local one to me, it was like a lot of nude dudes in the locker room. So it's like, all
That's
right,
called a gay bathhouse.
that's what
That's a
we're
gay
doing.
bathhouse. Yeah.
Okay, and then just dongs out on the walk to the shower. And then when I switched and started going to Planet Fitness, I've not seen a butt or anything the whole time that I've been going. And
Wow.
I've gone to probably, without exaggeration, dozens of locations of Planet Fitness. And
There was a dude
and
in
nary
my
a butt
local
or
Planet-
donger.
There was a dude at my local Planet Fitness in Newport, Kentucky, who,
Wow,
when he was
doxing
done
yourself.
working out, yeah, come find me.
Fans are going to come get you at the Planet Fitness.
Oh, it's going to be all the Big Bang Theory fans that heard me call Big Bang Theory blackface for nerds. Although that's a great name of a podcast.
Well, I don't think it's Big Bang Theory fans. I think it is people that object to me comparing something to blackface. Those are the ones that
I would
that
like
take
to see the
issue
Venn
with it.
diagram of the
Yeah.
cross of just like, well, are you a Big Bang Theory
It's not
fan?
like
You're
young
kind of standing
Sheldon
up.
is getting upset with me. It is just like, hey, don't compare something so trivial to something so terrible. And I was like, well, I'm not saying they're equally bad. I'm saying the mechanism of how one
Yes.
is making jokes about a topic is similar to how the other one is making jokes about a topic.
So at my Newport Planet Fitness, there was a gentleman who wore, gosh, I can't even, a form-fitting, spandexy, like black material.
Okay.
The shorts, like the biker shorts and the top. He would come in after his workout, long, dyed black hair, very dark, leathery skin, tan. And he would take off all of his clothes, but leave on his socks and running shoes. So he'd be naked. So he'd peel that off, like the biker shorts around those. So he'd be butt ass naked.
Well, you don't
And
want to
he
stand
would-
barefoot on a gym locker room floor. Yeah.
Well, I guess that is why. But then would, on the bench in front of the lockers, put his foot up. Now, again,
Well, you got to air him out.
But like,
You got to
he
get
would
some separation.
He would Captain Morgan with his old dong and old loose
Yeah,
balls,
Of course.
put his foot up,
Yeah.
and then take off his shoes and socks. Last.
Well, that might be. I mean, you said he's kind of old. That might just be a flexibility issue. I don't know.
Take off your shoes and socks first.
Yeah.
Don't when I see you Captain Morgan like really batwinging it, like dangling, like it was. But he'd do it. No, the
I don't know.
proximity. So like, what I'm saying is the proximity that he would do it to other people. It didn't matter to him if I was sitting next to his locker. This is how he
Nor should it.
proceeded. And that I'm sitting there,
Yeah.
eye level to his old balls and dong.
Yeah. That's what locker rooms are for. I worked as a lifeguard at a YMCA in high school, so I'm like totally numb to old weird balls. Like they're just. I was so used to seeing them. They're just out, and yeah, I don't know. You're getting changed.
I also have a father that like we are pretty comfortable with one another. Last year I went and did before the twins were born, we knew there wouldn't be a lot of free time left. There was a Trans Am national show, which in Dayton, Ohio,
So you
where
went to
people
Dayton,
come
Ohio,
with their
to be
Trans Ams.
nude with your dad? What is this story
Pretty close.
about?
It also involves Trans Ams, so I'm trying to paint as good a picture. So it's like 3 days, and it's at the parking lot of this hotel up there, and everybody brings their Trans Ams of varying years, and people who own Trans Ams are really cool. And at night, we had a Blu-ray player, and my dad and I like watching movies, as I've grown up doing. We also like eating Grippo's barbecue chips that come in a large box.
Okay. I'm
Just
not
paint the
familiar with
picture.
the Grippo's brand, but you're
Oh,
painting a word
fantastic.
picture.
Yep. And so we each have our own beds, and we put on the movie. My dad, again, fine with it, strips down butt-ass naked, sits on his bed,
Yeah, like you do.
opens the Grippo box,
Sure.
takes the large plastic bag that is filled with spicy barbecue chips, sits it on his lap, and starts eating it.
Is he doing
Looks
the
over
diner
at me,
popcorn trick?
looks over at me and goes, "Do you want some?" And I'm like, "No, old man,
Yeah,
you
that's gonna
got
be
the
a
bag
hard
sitting on
pass.
your old balls."
I know there's a hole in the bottom of that bag, Dad.
In a spicy Grippo bag, like, and that's Grippos. If you know it, they have sugar, but they're a very spicy barbecue chip.
Okay.
Like it burns when you poop the next day, kind of spice.
You're really selling Grippos.
So again,
This
I
week's episode brought
understand.
to you by Grippos.
And Time Life's soup or sounds of the 70s. You know when I came up with that to break the illusion of that was a sponsor was 4 o'clock in the morning when I was going one of these past weeks with no sleep because our twins are deciding that they don't want to sleep unless they're laying on somebody.
Yeah, my 6-year-old was like that. Still kind of is. She doesn't sleep good. She wakes up pretty much every night at some point and comes crashing into our room. And when my first kid used to do that, we were younger and like had the energy to be like, all right, come on, sweetie, let's get you back in bed. We've just given up, you know. Now that we're like in our we're like, fine, whatever, just.
So
I'll
we have
just-
that with the twins, but we
yeah.
also are now having that. So it means we have to sleep in a chair or a recliner that is very uncomfortable. And like you said, getting older, my body does. That's why part of why I've not been working out is because I'm having aches in areas that
Sure.
I've not felt before. Our 5-year-old
'Cause
has
you're
also
old and
been.
gross now.
I'm old, gross balls,
Yeah.
and so that's I'm not. I don't want to.
Yeah, get them out.
Yeah.
Get some Grippos on those bad boys.
Just rubs. It's like a Bengay. Just feel the icy hot burn. But our 5-year-old is also being the worst she has been in a long time, and nothing matters to her. There's no punishments that matter. She's being aggressive. She's being verbally abusive. She is waking up in the middle of the night and doing whatever and just not listen. Like, it has been awful in our house. And I hate that it's around the holidays
Yeah.
because my wife and I, my wife feels guilt more than I do, but I am dipping into that guilt pond, especially being tired, of being like, look, I want to experience this holiday season in the most enjoyable way possible, but I'm also not going to sacrifice like my complete sanity so my daughter gets the Thanksgiving experience or the Christmas experience, like if she's being a shithead.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry, we are going to have to separate. Like, we're at the point we're having to separate her from the family because she is not participating in the rules of humanity with our family.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Of
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah.
she's not like there's more of us. There are more children than there
My
are
children have gone
adults.
through similar phases. If that makes you feel any better,
It doesn't.
I don't think
Like,
this is
everybody-
a wholly unique experience.
No, it's not. It like I mean, having the two babies makes it a little
Right? Yeah.
two
That
babies at the same
seems
time.
like way more stressful.
But yeah, with her, like we will do fun things and we'll go out and do things, but then she'll be heinous afterwards, and it's just like, well, you fooled us for that 3 hours of thinking you deserved something fun. It's hard writing jokes that involve her or telling stories about her because people are like, "Oh man, that's so funny. She sounds like a card," and I'm like, "Ah, yeah,
No, this
it's
is actually
awesome."
quite stressful. Like,
Yes.
yeah, because it's. I mean, we both do a lot of jokes about our children, and I got asked recently by a woman. I was doing a virtual show, and the company that was having me do it, they're like, "Will you stick around for like a Q&A after?" And I was like, "I will, but I can't imagine anyone at your company is gonna have any questions for me." But the lady
Is
was like,
Pickle your real last
yeah,
name?
that's
Is
the one I always
Pickle-
get.
Yeah.
That was the big one, and then she like really insisted. She's like, "No, I think they will. I think it'll be fun." So like, I mean, I'll do it, but I I don't know what anybody's going to ask. One lady's like, you do a lot of jokes about your kids. How do you find a line between what is acceptable to share with the public and what isn't? And I was like, that is a surprisingly adept question that I truly was not expecting. But it's like one that I've thought about a lot because, I mean, yeah, sometimes kids are terrible. Like, it sucks sometimes being a parent.
I mean, I hope my daughter does hear this. She goes back into the chronicles of online, and when she's trying to connect with me because I've died in a
Right.
terrible way, the only way for her to connect is with me from beyond the grave of dead Ricky, of like old dead Ricky. And she's just like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to hear my dad and his humor. I remember the little bits I do remember, and people tell me he was this and blah, blah, blah. And she just pulls this up, and she's just like, I know she's a shithead and I hate her. Like, and she's just like, oh no, oh God. Like,
see, but I
that's what,
don't. Like, for me, the line is like, I don't want to say anything about my children on stage or that is being recorded that will like get brought up in therapy later. Where now that my older daughter, she's almost 12, so that is prime everything daddy does is embarrassing age.
yeah.
So there's like a baseline. It is embarrassing that your dad is a comedian and he does jokes about you that I'm comfortable with. But like, there's a joke,
it also pays some bills.
right? There's a joke on World Crime League about potty training my younger daughter, and there's a part that I didn't do at the recording, but I did at a couple live shows where like she had an accident and the story is about that. But the story ultimately becomes about me trying to make her feel better by telling her everyone has accidents. And she's like, well, even you, Daddy? I was like, yeah, even me. And she just started telling everybody that I pee my pants all the time. And so the joke is ultimately on me, but it's like, it's pretty embarrassing to tell people that your kid had an accident. So like, I'm not going to put that on a comedy special. But the part where I'm talking about potty training her, I was like, well, no, that's just a thing that everyone kind of assumed happened. Everybody's gone through it. Like, it's a little embarrassing, but it doesn't feel so embarrassing that I have like guilt presenting it as comedy. But yeah, there's other times where it's like, yeah, my kids will be truly horrible in a specific moment where it's like, this is so frustrating and stressful. It does make kind of a good story later though. But it's like, but I don't want to try to get comedy out of that part of parenting, you know?
Yeah, I'm not sitting. I mean, yeah, sometimes people have asked me, they're just like, oh, or do you ever feel that maybe you're not as present in certain situations if you're always keeping your ear open for material? And my response to that is, it's just naturally who we are. It doesn't,
Yeah.
it's not like something we turn off. Like, I love being around, I love people watching and being in situations. Yesterday at the Children's Museum, I took my daughter, we set up a play date with one of her preschool friends, and we went to McDonald's, and then we went to the Children's Museum. And while we were there, a woman went up to another woman, a pregnant woman went up to a woman with a stroller, and they did not know each other. Like, if you saw both of these people, it wasn't like, oh, they're friends or they have a history.
Sure.
A stranger went up to another stranger and said, did you breastfeed your baby? And I guess because she was pregnant,
Okay.
yep. But the woman with the stroller who was being asked this, she, without skipping a beat or making it awkward, was just like, yeah, I did. And the pregnant woman said, it looks like it because that baby is chunky.
Oof.
And she laughed like, oh, ha ha, like, this is
Not where I thought that was going.
yeah. Well, to me, it's just that thing of like, we as comedians, it doesn't matter what situation we're in.
Yeah.
We're kind of hearing things and listening for the comedy and for the beats and the rhythm of things all the time. It's not like, if we're neglectful parents, that's something completely different. That's
right. That's
what you were saying. Of just like,
it's unrelated to our career.
yeah, well, you saying like, I don't want something to be part of therapy. For me, I'm a little bit of the opposite. I get what you're saying and I do support it, but at least I would know where her issues in the therapy are coming from. If that's like, it wouldn't be a surprise.
Right.
If she's just like, oh, I'm talking to my therapist about this and my dad talked about blah, 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 blah. I'd be like, all right, I get it. Like,
Well, even
but if she's,
it got pointed out pretty early on that I talk a lot about my kids, but not that much about my wife. And it's the thing of like, I mean, conflict might not be the right word, but like I have more conflict with my children than I do with my wife, because they are, tiny people who are figuring out how to be humans, and I am in charge of them and like trying to teach them things they don't want to hear about. My wife is just a nice librarian. Like we get along, and it's like comedy comes from conflict. But I've been talking about her more, and when like she got the chickens we have in our backyard that she got, that I'm like, I mean, I'm not going to tell you no. Like you're an adult with income. Like you can do whatever you want. I don't know why you feel the need to have chickens in our yard. But then I talk about it on World Crime League, and I didn't think to tell her that until right before she came to the recording. We were sitting backstage having dinner because I taped it on our anniversary. And I was like, oh, hey, just so you know, I do have like a 10-minute bit about you and the chickens. And she's like, yeah, I kind of figured you would. And I was like, I don't think it's too mean. And I think I don't remember if it made the special or not. There's a line that I have in that bit when I do it now of like, I don't love how like comedy in the 80s was just dudes in their 40s complaining about their wives. But if your wife passes local legislation to add poultry into your life, I think you're allowed to comment about it publicly. Where it's like, it's not like, oh, my dumb wife got stupid birds that I hate. It's just like, I don't know. I don't know why she did this. It's weird that they're back there. But again,
when you're
I don't know. I like
your
I like
spouse
her a lot.
When your spouse makes a choice that could be an A or a B plot for a sitcom,
yes, exactly.
then I feel like you should be able to.
There could 100% have been an episode of the Drew Carey Show where one of his girlfriends decides to get chickens in the backyard and they poop all over the pool table or something, and it's like, that would 100%.
And it's a metaphor for him losing himself and what he's willing to adapt with in the relationship. I really like her, but
he's dealing with having to do farm chores now.
He's dealing with chicken
There's
shit.
going to be an American Gothic framing of them standing while he's holding a pitchfork at some point.
Yeah.
I'm going to write a spec of the Drew Carey Show, a show that's not been on the air for 20 years.
So my wife. Here's a name drop. I was opening for Doug Benson, and
your wife is Doug Benson?
Yeah. And this is quite a few years ago when I was first married, and he was standing in the back of the room, and unbeknownst to me, for the first 10 minutes, every time I said my wife on stage, I heard a voice go, my wife, doing Borat, because he was standing in the back of the room mocking me during my set.
Sounds great. Sounds like a great guy.
But I did reevaluate how many times I would say my wife during my set.
That's the kind of thing where like he thinks he is being helpful in that moment. Yes. Which, I mean, maybe he is, because you did reevaluate it, but it's like, you could also just said after, hey, you say my wife a lot. Yep. Or like, if you were taking some kind of workshop with him, and that was how he was giving you feedback, understandable. Again, not how I would do it. But like, I just said, that is a thing where like I've heard of people in acting workshops where somebody will stand there with like an air horn, and when you say or they just hit it, and it like scares that habit out of you. And I'm like, that just seems like a mean way to do it. I also don't like saying and on stage, but the way I deal with it is by working out the material, and then as I develop a joke, the wording kind of gets locked in, where if I'm working on the fly or doing like a podcast, I'm less strict about my speech. It is why when people like correct someone's grammar on Threads or somewhere, it's like, we're not doing that here. Like this isn't English class. I'm allowed to make typos. I'm doing this with my thumbs on the toilet. I'm not going to pick the right word every time. Leave me alone.
Again, it is superiority. And those conversations, whenever anybody starts to do that, it is because there is a discussion, it is starting to get heated, and that is the first way somebody's superiority can say, you are dumb, you are stupid, your opinion and what you're saying is wrong, and I'm going to call out your grammar and your misword choice
Yeah.
for corn fructose, high fructose subsidies.
Right. I needed to point that out because I'm better than you.
No.
Ricky.
I've been
No, I
editing
am.
clips, and I know.
Ricky.
I know.
Ricky, I'm better than you. Ricky,
Have you not been writing
I'm better
multiple
than you
theme
are.
songs for our show that has 2 episodes, and then you wrote a fake ad to make the other person read that you did not forewarn them was happening? You just asked them, do you have your emails open, and can you read an email during the
I'm
recording of the
glad.
episode?
So I last week when we recorded that morning, I picked these glasses up. They are a new prescription, and they are also prism lenses because it turns out my eyes don't point in the same direction. So since Wednesday, I have been adjusting to these things, and it has been a real wild ride. Sometimes they feel fine. Other times it feels like looking through those bricks that they built walls out of in the 80s, where everything was wavy and weird. And part of it was I have everything on my computer, my tablet, my phone is all in dark mode. It is all white text on black background because it was easier to read. But with these, I had to flip it, and now everything looks too bright, and it is like reading. It feels like I have to learn to read again because I have to get used to looking at these bright ass screens. So when you pulled that up, I think that was the most text that I had read in one go since getting these, and it went fine. I think my eyes and brain have finally adjusted to these glasses.
Connect with you saying the I have recently learned from editing clips to put them online. That is one of the things I hate about being a stand-up is our connection. It feels like in this day and age to be on social media and self-promote.
And do stuff like podcasts.
I like this. And I just said the word I say a ton while editing and doing the captions for these videos
bazinga.
is like.
Yeah.
I say like a lot.
You do,
And
but
I do not like it, so I am actively working on not doing that as much. So I will try to get better. But one thing my wife has said about
my wife
about
Sorry, Doug
talking
Benson is here.
about her on stage is she's like, just don't call me a bitch.
Yeah.
And she's like, that's pretty much that. She's like, I think that encompasses. She would prefer if I ran something by her that she heard it before an audience does or before she's going to be in an audience to hear it.
Right.
And there were some personal things that have happened in our lives with pregnancy and stuff that I've if I were to work on it to be part of a show that I would definitely run by her based on the respect of this was a hard thing that both of us have gone through. But pretty much our agreement is she's like, yeah, just don't call me a bitch or call me stupid on stage.
Right.
We had a thing where I have forgotten to do it and I need to work on it more. I came home and the house felt cluttered and I felt like I needed to do some cleaning before a circus came home. My wife, the 2 sons, my wife and our daughter. And one of the things that made me feel this way was there was a lot of flies in the kitchen. And I was like, this is disgusting. And I want to get rid of this. I don't know what's causing it. I'm going to throw out all the trash. I'm going to clean all this. Is there any gross food? Blah, blah, blah. There were dead plants sitting in a vase or vase above the sink.
A vase.
And vase?
Quit
being so vase about this situation. I got rid of those. I threw them away. And when she came home, I told her there was a lot of flies. I did this, this, and this, and got rid of that dead plant. She's like, what dead plant? I was like, the one that was sitting above the sink. And she's like, that wasn't a dead plant. That was made that way. I was like, what do you mean it was made that way? She's like, that was a fake plant. I was like, a fake plant to look dead? And she was like, yeah. I was like, but it was all crunchy and like brown and like tan, like a dead plant would be. And she's like, yeah, that's how it's supposed to look. I was like, you bought a plant
I
that
thought
was
it was
supposed to
fake.
look like something has decomposed and had the texture of crunch of a decomposed plant? And she's like, yeah. And I just stood there like, why? And so when I did it, she told her cousin who she was with when she bought this at this whatever Tuesday morning's
Yeah.
World's Market or whatever store. And her cousin texts me and she said, hey, Allie told me that you threw away her very expensive dead looking plant. And I was like, it was expensive? So again, I'm not calling her stupid or a bitch, but that is a very, in my opinion, if you were
Right.
thinking,
But you either bought a real plant that you thought was fake and it died, or you bought an already dead plant that you thought was fake, or you spent a lot of money on a fake plant that is made to look like a dead plant, and why would you do that?
100%. And that is a C plot, B plot of a sitcom episode where one of these middle-aged white dudes is married to a woman who is way either intelligence or looks or both, way beyond what he should be able to have in
Sure.
his life because we are gross, low-hanging ball sack
Yeah.
people.
Well, I think you've seen me do it. I think I probably did it on the Florida shows. But the other bit I have where I'm talking about my wife is we had an earthquake in New Jersey, and not like a big one, but she sent me a text that just said everyone's okay, but didn't mention the earthquake. And I was on the road, so I didn't know about it. And I was like, what happened? And I was like panicking. And then she's like, oh, well, there's an earthquake. It wasn't a big deal. I was like, right, but you should have said that in the text. You should
I
have
just
said,
would have replied back with context question
Yeah.
mark.
and she like, I think I exaggerate how much of an argument it was in the joke version of this, but it was like she sent me a text. She's like, everyone's okay. I got to a show, and that was the
Yeah.
message that I had was everyone's okay. And I was like, what happened? Why wouldn't they be? And then like I was looking on social media and stuff and realized there had been an earthquake, and it all kind of clicked. And I was just like, hey, next time just say everyone's okay vis-a-vis the earthquake. Like that would have been really helpful.
Well, but then if you had no idea of the earthquake, like she is proposing that you knew about this earthquake.
Right.
That you were doing weather watch constantly for New
But
Jersey,
I
the
didn't.
place you
I
are
was
not currently in. But
I
you
was
did.
driving to a show in another state and was
I don't
not
know.
in earthquake range.
I don't have a big pre-show ritual. I don't think you do, from what I've seen.
I
think we
do
both.
a dumb little dance.
Do you really do a dumb little dance?
I do, and people will be backstage with me and kind of like mock it, and they're like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I don't know. I just do a little dance before I go on stage." But yeah,
like to maybe-
I don't need like half hour of quiet or whatever. I get to corporate gigs and everyone's like, "Oh, it's like, do you need anything to prepare?" I was like, "No, I'll go right now. It's all I do is stand there and talk about myself. I can do that whenever."
Well, and that's one of my favorite things is I have a friend who is a comedian who does the same set all the time. Slightly varies between the length of the set where he'll do more or less, but it is the same set. He is if he needs to figure out quantum
Yeah.
physics.
I know a couple of
Sits
these
and is
people.
just like writing it out, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, maybe he's working on something new. He's like, I just need to make sure where this comes in, this blah blah blah. He does it word for word, the jokes the same. And so now when he does this as a pre-show ritual, I'm like, okay, this will be what you do, and that is fine, but I am going to make fun of you
Sure.
because of how intense you are sitting here and acting. And I've gotten to the point where I will look up on my notes app on my phone at some old set list bullet points, and I will think, okay, I kind of want to do this, and I kind of want to do this in this order. But as long as it's a loose enough show,
Yeah.
I'm not too worried about it.
I usually make a set list of however long I'm doing. I'm like, I think this is about that long. I almost never stick to it. I usually don't even look at it on stage, but it's usually up there.
Yeah.
And it is just like a rough outline of whatever. But having run all the sets that I've recorded, I've run them so many times that like they're locked in. I can basically do, the World Crime League set almost verbatim whenever, because to get ready for that recording, I ran that exact set a bunch of times. I was looking at the outline while I was doing it because I wanted those to be the jokes I was recording. But now it's like, I don't know, if I have to talk for 45 minutes, I'll be like, what do I want to talk about? All right, here's a couple jokes that I like about my kids. Here's a couple jokes about traveling. Here's, jokes about doing virtual shows or whatever. And then I just go up and maybe do half of what I wrote down. And then, the benefit of having been doing this for a while is like, well, if I don't remember what joke I wanted to tell, I'll just tell a different joke. I have a lot of jokes.
Yeah, and that's the comfortability and the narcissism and the confidence of the experience, all of those things intertwined. If I'm headlining and I get into some crowd work, I will go as long as that feels comfortable, and then I will try to seamlessly get out of that into the pre-written material, using whatever bit that I know I have pre-written to be a connector. There have been a few, because I'm working on stuff to try to develop a tighter, newer narrative hour, and I will sometimes be too loose and the crowd work will be fun, which it's about entertaining the audience. But if I get a light, light me at 35 minutes, because then I know I'm only doing 45.
Mm-hmm.
I will sometimes have not started any of the pre-written stuff or kind of what I've wanted to work on, and I'll get that light and I'll be like, oh no, okay, let me see if I can weave in 10 minutes to get this plane to land, so it feels like, because I don't feel like I can crescendo a crowd work set and just then abruptly have a closer, because then I think the audience will be like, wait, that was weird. So then I have to then pivot like the last 10 minutes as well as I can. But anybody who goes up, I've seen more people get uncomfortable by having their set list up there and feeling beholden to it, like looking at it and being like, oh, I didn't say that, or oh.
Yeah.
Than someone who just goes up there. But again, it all has to do with how much time you're doing. It can also depend.
Sometimes it is just like, if I'm I think I looked at it at the Boca shows. I brought it up on stage and I was like checking it, because it's like, even the guy working the door, whose name I don't remember, shout out to the staff of the Boca Black Box, but he's like, oh, there's not a lot of people. He's like, usually people just go up and like work out new stuff. And I was like, great point. Most of the audience is my family, so this is a great time to be like, look, here's just some newish stuff to try to see if it works at all. So I wrote that on the set list. I was like, what's the newer stuff I want to try? And then I did enough old stuff to make sure that everyone felt like they weren't just watching a 45-minute open mic. But
yeah,
these are the ones I want to make sure that I do.
You said phrases like, the audience was mostly my family, and this is what I want to work for the show. There were 6 people.
Yes.
And 4 out of the 6 were
3 of whom were family members, and then
that's right.
One of them was a friend of family members.
Yes. And then 7 if you count the door person.
Yeah.
And I believe 2 of the 6 left midway through because they were going to the Country Music Awards.
Is that what they were doing? Oh, that's just because that's how they were dressed. They did. So 2 people left about 10 minutes before the show was over. And it's a small enough room. They have to walk past the stage to leave. And it had been a loose enough show that they're like, hey, sorry, we have reservations. And I was like, but you knew you were coming here.
No, they had reservations about what was happening.
Yeah, we actually
didn't
have.
Yeah.
But like they bought tickets. and came,
Drinks.
and it was just you and me. It wasn't like, we had a couple extra people. The show was running long, and they're like, oh, we got to get going. I was like, I cannot get off stage until I feel comfortable that people paid money for this, that we've done enough time, So I was like, I need to make sure I hit 45 or whatever. But yeah, like 10 minutes to go, they just get up and like, sorry, we have reservations. Like, did you make them when you got here? You're like, we gotta find something.
They were
else to
sitting
do.
on their phones. Yeah, they did an early check-in. Do you have any shows this upcoming weekend for Thanksgiving weekend, or are you off this weekend?
No, I have. I got a virtual. I mean, the problem with my career in general is that most of the shows that I do aren't worth plugging on something like a podcast, because it's all like,
oh no, I
private
wasn't looking
events.
to plug. I was just
I
curious.
have a virtual show on Saturday, and I genuinely think that's it for this week. I try not to schedule stuff around the holidays. I mean, this weekend the virtual show is on my wife's birthday, but I black out my kids' birthdays as like,
You black out at your kids' birthdays?
Yes, I get blacked out.
You just
at my
get
children's
hammered.
birthdays. It's just like, well, I won't. I'll be home for my kids' birthdays. I'll be home for Christmas, because that's important to them, not me. But my wife is pragmatic enough that it's like, yeah, I'm gonna go do my job and get paid on your birthday. She's like, great, have fun. She's not like, you're gonna miss my birthday. She doesn't care. Or like, I recorded my last special on our anniversary. I did double check that one. I was like, hey,
Yes.
just so we're on the same page, 18, that's not like a big one, right? Like, we don't have to do anything special. Like, do you want to, we'll have your mom watch the kids and you can come watch the taping, and we'll like eat dinner backstage beforehand.
We got to spend it together.
If it was like our 20th, maybe I wouldn't do that, but
I don't know. Yeah.
Or like, yeah, then come with me and we'll go do something. But I don't know.
I am missing birthdays similar, except for I got offered a holiday party corporate show on my boys, the twins' first birthday. So my daughter's first birthday was COVID, smack dab May 2020. So it was nobody came over. It was us. We had our FaceTime up for my in-laws in Florida. The next day, my parents came for a porch visit to say happy birthday, but they couldn't hold her, and that killed them, but not killing them in the way that it could have.
Right, not literally killing them the way that it might
COVID.
have.
Yeah. So for this one, I don't know if it's because our first and only other experience with children and a first birthday was that, so it was easier to schedule something. But I also did ask. I asked my wife. I was just like, hey, there's opportunity.
Yeah.
Really good paying opportunity on this Saturday, which happens to be their birthday and happens to fall on a Saturday. And I get it. That's their first one. But would it be okay? Because it's a lot of money. And she's like, yeah, we'll do it a week before. They're turning 1. They don't know.
I mean, I'm sure there's an amount of money that if somebody came and they're like, hey, do you want to do a show on your kid's 7th birthday? And I'm like, I'll get asked, like, hey, are you open this day? And be like, nope. And if they came back with like, are you open this day for $50,000? Well, then yeah, I mean, maybe.
Then you also bribe that child, and
right? Then you bring the kid
them,
to make it a whatever.
Yeah,
but
yeah, daddy's got to pay for your
typically.
braces.
Not to show my whole ass, but typically I'm not being offered the amount of money
you do at Planet Fitness
that it would take to get me to reconsider. But like I don't care. I'll do a show on my birthday. I don't care. My wife, again, I'm doing one. I was originally scheduled to do an in-person one, and then switched it out for a virtual. And I'm like, well, that's fine, because then I'll be home more for my wife. Like, I'm around. It was a local show that I was going to be doing, and then I picked up this virtual one that paid better. So,
would you be around any more or any less if you didn't have a show? Or you're like, what would you be doing? Like, what is this birthday dish? Is she getting a piñata? Is
No,
she
I
like
think her and my older daughter are going to go see Wicked together. We were all going to go, and my
Perfect.
younger daughter doesn't want to, and I also don't want to. But I was gonna I would sit through Wicked with my wife and daughters, you know.
her material?
I mean, just because I love them, but not. I mean, Jeff Goldblum's in there. That would be fun for me. I would probably
Sure.
like that part. But I have no real investment in the story of Wicked. But my wife is pretty excited about it. And I asked my younger daughter, I was like, do you want to go to this movie? Here's the trailer. And she said, no, it looks too scary. I was like, great. You and me will hang out at home. Mommy and big sister will go watch the movie. And then I don't have to sit through a musical. And
That's also awesome that your daughter, even though it's a thing that she doesn't feel connected to or wants to do, isn't of the mindset, but it's mommy time and it's for her birthday and I'm so sewn at her hip to do this. But you've talked about that, right? Where your older daughter's like your wife and your younger you think is more like you.
yeah, my
Okay.
younger daughter is very attached to my wife, but also doesn't like going to the movie theater. So
Hmm.
she sat through If at a birthday party that where they just rented out a theater and they played it off of the DVD, so it wasn't like theater sound
Yeah.
loud. She made it through that, and so now she is open to the thought of going back and trying to watch another movie. But when she saw Wicked, she said, "No, it's too scary." So I don't have to go to that.
I like musicals. I do not like this trend of I mean, it could be a complaint of superhero movies or anything. The over amount of use of CGI for something where the magic and the spectacle was done on stage. I'm like, yeah, singing in the rain, this stuff. Like, bring me some sets. Find some fun ways to do this practical. I think the CGI nowadays looks so bad and immediately feels antiquated like the day after it comes out or like the day after the trailer. Like Attack of the Clones, Star Wars Episode 2 looks so bad
Yeah.
when you go back and
I mean,
watch
I
that.
don't. I'm not a big musical guy. I did just sit through. I forget the year. The 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, a production that my nephew
Yeah.
was in. I went this weekend, and I brought my older daughter because she likes going to plays and musicals. So my wife stayed home with the younger one. I took my older daughter. We went and watched my nephew. Great job to the cast and my nephew's
High
friends.
school,
Yeah.
middle school. Okay.
High school.
No
My
high school
nephew-
production is good, but
My nephew name checked me during the show because they were like improvising a lot of stuff. I don't know if that's typical for that play, but there was like a lot of stuff that was clearly like done on the fly. And there's a part where he's getting dragged off stage, and I forget exactly what he said, but because he's the vice principal in the show, and
Yeah.
somebody calls him the principal, and he goes, "No, I'm the vice principal. The last guy they tried to make principal was Glenn Tickle, and what kind of last name is that?" He's saying it like as he's getting dragged off of the stage, and I don't think he knew I was coming either. So it was a nice because I'm a narcissist. So anytime anybody says my name in a thing, I get excited.
Oh, and also I feel like really like well done for if it is
He was
in the
legitimately great,
book.
and I'm not just saying it because he's my nephew and I love him, but he did a great job. His friend AJ was, I forget the character name, but there's like a weird kid in the spelling bee, and his friend was the weird kid, and I was like, "You're doing a great job being the weird kid." But his friends know that I'm a comedian, and they are, I think, more than most people impressed by that fact. So anytime I go to one of these productions and they find out that I'm there, everyone is like kind of nervous, and I was like, "Guys, don't be.
Look,
I'm
guys,
nobody,
guys.
like you guys are in a play at your school. We're roughly at the same level of show business here. Like you don't have to be impressed by me." But they did a great job. If any of them listen to the show, and they might, I don't know how serious this is. I think they also might be making fun of me because they're teenagers.
Oh, I hope our demographic is high school kids for a podcast called Daddio with two middle-aged white
Yeah.
cis comedians.
They love it. Do you asked me if I had any shows coming up?
You
So
don't
I feel
have to
like
ask
I
me.
should ask you. I'm trying to get better. People ask me stuff, and I always forget to follow up and ask them. A general lack of interest on my part. But you got anything going on? Are you doing anything for
Not
Thanksgiving? What are you doing?
not this weekend. I have been putting a blackout over Thanksgiving weekend based on the history of doing live shows when I have for Thanksgiving weekend. They are very poorly attended because people are doing family things
Yeah.
or they're shopping or they're seeing movies. So I to stay with my family during this time because my wife's a school teacher and now with kids, they are all off from Wednesday through Sunday. So a lot of we stay in town for Thanksgiving, which is nice. And because I have gone and done shows before and they have sucked, I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. This is going to be a nice weekend before the next few weekends before the holidays with corporate shows, holiday shows, a
Yeah, I
couple
have a lot of those
other.
coming up after this weekend. Like
Oh,
December is
no,
getting pretty busy.
what I'm looking forward to the most is one up in Michigan. It's the birthday one that I get to bring an opener with me, which doesn't ever happen for a corporate holiday show for
Yeah,
me.
it's usually just
And
me at
so,
those.
oh, I'm so happy because it will be awful. It will be terrible, but at least I have someone to open for me and also someone to commiserate with
Yeah,
afterwards.
I've largely due to the pandemic, for a long time I was only going solo. And
Mm.
I like with the Florida shows, Tristan Miller joined me at an APCA conference where I was trying to get booked at colleges. They were trying to see if they wanted to do one as well. So we went up together and just hung out for the weekend. It's like, all right, it is nice doing things with other comedians. Like
Hmm.
having a little buddy around is better a lot of the times than just being by yourself. Because before that Florida show, I went out and I did like a 2,000 plus mile drive out to South Dakota, Western Nebraska, and then home to New Jersey alone. And then when I was in South Dakota, I was hanging out with the guy who set up the show, Lee Bruns, and we had a great time. You know, he drove me around on the sidecar of his motorcycle, showing me the town. We had a great
You were his
day.
little buddy.
I was his little buddy that day.
You're his little buddy.
But then, yeah, then it's, back in the car, and then it's another 900 miles to the town in Nebraska. I was performing at a wedding. And then, I get to the wedding. I don't know anybody. I'm kind of hanging out with the DJ just because it's like the closest to my role at the wedding. So, like, we were
Then
kind of hanging out
he screwed you though, right? With the whole introduction. Well,
a
one,
little bit.
weddings. What an awful. Nobody should be having a
I've
comedian at a
I've done
wedding, but
so many, and I try to talk them out of it literally every time, uh, because at best it's going to go fine. And but
yeah.
they also, people pay more for a wedding than for another type of event. So I'm like, look, I'm going to charge you enough that I'm willing to ruin your wedding. I don't think that I will because I'm a good comedian. I'm good at reading a room. I understand what is and is not appropriate to do. But when they're like, yeah, can you do an hour at the reception? No, that's insane. What are you talking
No.
about? I'll do.
And no offense, even if it was, let's have Steve Martin
Right.
come and do 20 minutes of the most Steve Martin-y Steve Martin that he could Steve Martin and one Steve Martin. No,
Yeah.
he should
Half
not
the room
be
would be
the
like, what is happening? We don't want this.
why. And also, this is the thing. Like, the wedding should be about the couple, not about how you got Steve Martin. So then
Yeah.
replace Glenn Tickle with Steve Martin.
Right.
And it's like, who is this?
We booked
Why
a
is
comedian.
this?
Who'd you get? Just this guy. I don't know. He had some
Yeah.
clips we liked. He seems nice. And it's
Was it weird? Yeah, it was weird.
weird every time. It's
Does
weird
anybody
every
know
time.
him?
I don't know
Did
them.
anybody know him? Are they family friends? No.
No, just some guy. He seems to like his wife. Seems to like being married. Talks a lot about his kids. So we figured bring him to the wedding.
How was it? It was exactly what you would expect.
Yeah,
A
it went-
weird 20-minute break.
Pretty
Yeah.
pretty fine. A lot
You
of
know
people
what?
would rather have been drinking and eating and talking.
It got crazy. People were losing their minds, loving it. And we
He
hoisted him
crowd
on our
surfed
shoulders.
in the middle of it.
Yeah. It was, he did a money dance. And there was no money left over for us because everyone was
he
so
took-
appreciative of him bringing his comedy.
Yeah, they thought he was going to give the money to us, the couple, but he just ran with it. He just took all the
No.
money. He stole
You know-
gifts.
And at the end of the day, me and Janice, my new wife, we're glad he got it. He deserved it because he blew the roof off the place.
He burned that mother down. Yeah, it's weird
does
to
that
do
never
comedy at a
happen?
wedding,
Yeah.
but I keep getting asked to do them, and we'll keep doing them.
And how did the DJ bring you up?
Oh, so the DJ asked, he's like, because the couple was not
Your friend, the DJ, the
Yeah.
closest person to you as being a performer or being able to work a room and a crowd.
Yeah, not a lot of
Just- yeah.
information was being shared between the couple and the staff. So I was talking to the DJ, and he's like, "It's weird that you're doing comedy at a wedding." I was like, "Yeah, I know. But I got asked, so here I am."
Like he's judging you. Like he's like, I know why I'm here. I need to play music.
And he's like, "Do you?" And I'm like, "Do you know if there's like anything before?" And he's like, "No, it just says it showed me the lineup, and it was just like cocktail hour,
Set list.
Glenn Tickle, and then he's like, "Do you want me to give you any kind of introduction?" I was like, "That would honestly, it would help a ton." And the thumbs up because I put my hand up. I'm like, "That would help a lot, actually. That would be great." And then he's like, "All right, great. What do you want me to say?" And I was like, "Nobody here is going to care about credits or whatever. Say whatever you want. Just make sure you say my name last, because it's like the intro thing that us as comedians know. But if somebody at a corporate gig, that's the thing you have to tell people. Because if you say, all right, our comedian tonight is Glenn Tickle, and he's been on Dry Bar, and now here he is, like people aren't sure when to start clapping for the intro, or you don't know when to start walking to the stage. So I told him, go ahead.
Not to deviate longly, but one of my favorite introductions was the host asked, "What do you want to be brought up as?" And I said, just say Bob and Tom, say Dry Bar. That's it. Like, it doesn't need to be a big thing, but just a little thing. And, kind of, the rhythm of how you bring somebody up. And then their last name, please welcome on the stage, Ricky Glore. Opener went out. He said, "Oh, boy, are you guys ready?" First question, yay. "Oh, how many of you know Ricky Glore from Dry Bar?"
No one does.
How many people know Ricky Glore from his appearance on Bob and Tom? No one. And I'm off stage laughing.
Yeah.
Because it's the worst. But even that, like, he's a DJ, right? So he's at a wedding.
Mm-hmm.
He has to introduce things to say, now we're going to do the couple's first dance.
Right.
Letting
we're going to
the
cut
audience,
the cake. So everybody go back out to the cake.
Everybody
area.
get ready. He understands not to let someone float like a turd.
Yeah.
Like an unflushed toilet.
To be fair, I did tell him, I'm like, it does not matter. You don't need to do credits or whatever. Just make sure you say my name last. He's like, all right, I got it. Time comes. I gotta start telling jokes. And he's like, everyone, please welcome to the dance floor, Glenn Tickle. And I was like, I mean, maybe slightly more context, but then say my name last. Because, again, part of it is like, you and I are in roughly the same position as comedians of like, we are working comics. This is our job, but people don't really know who we are. We're not famous, So if you just announce at a random wedding in Nebraska, please welcome to the floor, Glenn Tickle, nobody's going to be like, oh, Glenn Tickle is here?
But again, replace your name with Steve Martin, and it doesn't change how weird the context
right.
is.
It would be just like, why is Steve Martin at this wedding? Like, that's essentially
is this
what that
the
becomes.
Steve Martin?
Or a Steve Martin?
Or
is
a Steve Martin?
Glenn Tickle? Or
does Steve
Glenn
Martin
Tickle?
know them? Did Steve Martin introduce them? Like,
yeah.
What is
so
Steve
then
Martin
I have to start
comedy?
the set by explaining that I am a comedian, that I am there to do comedy, that it is...
Which is awesome.
Yeah, I was going to explain that it's weird that I do comedy at a wedding because I've done enough of them that I'm like, now I have a bit about it. But it's like, it's a weird start, and then it's like, it went fine. But then the couple, and this happens at all the weddings that I do, they're like, oh, like if you want to like stay and hang out after. I don't.
No.
We're not friends. You seem like nice people. I appreciate the check, but I'm going to go home to this hotel room and I'm going to deposit this check from my phone. I'm going to get probably Taco Bell and I'm going to watch half an episode of SNL. I'm going to fall asleep and then drive home in the morning.
I am going to question my life and my choices and the hoary nature of being a stand-up and what kind of show permutations
Yeah.
I will do for money, and hopefully not ruin my life with bad health choices of the
Well,
garbage food that I'm going to eat.
I do think that sometimes what the couple thinks they are getting when they hire me, a comedian, for a wedding is like, oh, well, he'll do like a little show at the reception, but then we'll have like a fun guy running around. Nah, not me.
You
I'm
mean
not a
like
fun guy at like my friends' weddings. I am
you mean
awkward.
like a murder? Yes, like a murder mystery. Like you'll be just mingling around
Yeah.
being a character. Yeah,
Before my set, everyone would be like, "Who's that guy? Why is he playing with a yo-yo so
man,
much?"
he's
By the
really
DJ.
vibing.
He really seems to like the DJ.
Do you think
And
the DJ and him came together? Do you think it's a
does
package
he work
deal?
for the DJ? And it's just like I don't know who else to talk to. So I feel like again, I have a thing in common with a DJ at a wedding of like we're both being paid to be there. We have something to talk about. I'm not going to mingle with your guests. What are you talking about? I don't.
No.
I'm socially awkward around people I know, like let alone strangers in another state. Especially because the set at a wedding is never going to go so well that people are going to talk to you about what a great job you did. That's all I want to hear from people after a show.
I will say, or let me buy your things. Let me give you more money. I will save this.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not selling merch at a wedding.
It would be great if it had their photo on it, but like with you like superimposed.
I might get like I think I didn't do it at the Nebraska one. I think I might like give them a CD. Like I might sign it to be like congratulations.
But even then, they're just like.
It feels weird. I've done that. I've not done it at all the weddings, but I have done it, and it feels weird.
So I will save this topic. We'll plate this for the next episode as we wrap up this one.
Yeah,
but
land this plane as Joe Byers
still
put it.
It is still baffling to me the amount of people who understand what a stand-up show is and still have no idea that a person isn't going up there and just talking off the top of their head. Now, I know I mentioned earlier about doing crowd work, but there's still some idea of that. We've done it so much that we're making it look like a lot of things we're saying are new and fresh and hip and blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
But that people, I like I said, I'll table this to the next episode. But when you come off stage and if you're selling merch or you run into someone, they want you to give the same presentational show of the character you were on stage afterwards.
No,
and there's sometimes
now.
they're like, yeah, keep on being funny. Oh, like, hey, I'm going to tell you about this. And my family member, like, you should let's talk about that.
Let me tell you the most racist joke I've ever heard in my life.
Well, I love to play that game before the show starts, where I look out at an audience, like I walk amongst the audience and I look around. I'm like, who's that going to be? Like, who's after the show or who during the show is going to be the funniest person in their office?
Yeah. Gross.
But yeah, doing anniversary parties, doing weddings.
Anything where it is an event about a specific person, it feels weird. Like I've done birthday parties. It's like it's not my birthday. Why are we all listening to me talk? Get Doug up here. It's Doug's special day. I don't know Doug.
If I do,
Doug found me on thebash.com and flew me to Colorado to do jokes at his house. I don't know why this is happening. But like we did one phone call a week ago that I barely remember. I don't know anything about this guy. I don't have jokes about you, Doug. I'm just going to do my regular set and hope your friends like it. Why are we in a living room?
Or you're also probably in a tone, you're probably not trying to be over promisorial how great this will go. You're probably more like, so are you sure this is what you want to do?
I try to like kind of hedge the bet a little bit at private events like that. Weddings, I do genuinely try to talk them out of doing it. I was like, this will not be what you think it's going to be. And I don't say that as doubting myself as an entertainer. I know what I am, you know? I'm good at my job, but I'm good at the specific type.
God, you know what you are so much even more after those shows when you're just stuffing your pie hole with that greasy garbage food. You're just like, I know what
Well,
I
I mean,
am.
there's shows that I get booked for where it's like, I mean, I'll do it, but I don't know why you asked me. Are you familiar with my work? Like, I'm gonna go up. I'm gonna talk about children in Jurassic Park to an extent that will astound you. I don't. The times where it's like a club that like the rest of the lineup is like always super broy. It's like, I mean, I'm not that. I'm not gonna be, I'm not crowd work guy asking everybody what their job is. I'm gonna talk about obscure Australian history or whatever weird thing I feel like talking about because I don't know how to not. I don't know how to just I will try to get a feel of the room and adjust the topics that I was prepared to discuss and be like, all right, these guys don't like jokes about kids. I hope they like
Slightly.
movies or like
Yeah.
I hope they've seen Star Wars because I can switch gears, but I only have so many gears,
Your crowd work will be, have you guys seen Star Wars? And if everyone's just like,
Right.
you're like, oh,
well,
no.
I guess I'm gonna reenact. I'll reenact Star Wars for you.
That should kill some time. I think
yeah.
I know enough of the lines to get. So I do think if I get asked to do a wedding, I will do one just so when the DJ introduces me, I will tell them that my name is DJ. So then the DJ's like, please welcome to the floor, DJ. And then if I end up making the audience laugh, there'll be a lower bar of expectations rather than them thinking I'm a comedian. And they'll just think I'm the funny DJ's assistant.
Yeah.
Who just happens to be telling some jokes.
I don't have time to get into it now, but the best wedding I ever did, we'll talk about it next time. The best wedding I ever did, I performed the wedding. Like I married two people.
But you knew them.
No, I didn't.
Oh.
I had
need
more back and forth with them, and they seemed more on board with because they were familiar with me. They weren't hiring a comedian. They hired me specifically. So they're like, they wanted Bill Burr, but they're like, we're never going to get Bill Burr. Let's get this other guy that we saw that one time. So they knew.
That's Bill Burr and then Glenn Tickle. Like,
nice.
I
mean, success difference aside, two very different performers.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do have to end this episode so that I can go to the grocery store before picking up my children from school.
And I need to work out, so
you have to go into your garage and hit that
walk steps.
Stair machine.
And
I did the stair machine today, and I don't like it. I'll hit a treadmill for a while, but the stair machine.
It's the shortest amount of time. So I got a standing treadmill at my office. Where I will type and get some work done. But the stair machine, it is boring, but it is the highest impact for the lowest amount of time.
I do 100 steps on it and I get off because I'm so bored.
Speaking of that, 100 steps and then you get off because you're so bored. You've been listening to Daddio. I'm Ricky Glore.
I'm Glenn Tickle. Have a great American Thanksgiving, everyone.
Later, Daddios.